Qantas's Airbus A380 order dates back 25 years to 2000, but much has changed between now and then. Throughout this time, the A380 has been grounded at the airline, orders have been cancelled. Although the series is still in operation today, its history has been complex, and in another timeline, Qantas could have flown more A380s than it does now, almost double. So why did the Australian flag carrier cancel orders for the series? If you are new to GlobeTrotting, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Your support would be greatly appreciated. Qantas's love for the A380 dates back more than 2 decades, when at the turn of the century it placed its first commitment to the aircraft that at the time was known as the A3XX. The deal would then be firmed up towards the back end of 2006 as preparations began to ramp up for the release of the world's largest passenger plane. This deal reached 20 units, thanks to the firming up of 8 options from the initial 12 to help hit the target. Qantas's love of the A380 is evident for many reasons, but the flag carrier has generally seen the aircraft throughout its life as key to connecting Australia to the world in a comfortable manner over long distances. Given that Australia is quite some distance away from other major global ports, the capabilities of the A380 allow the business to capitalise on slot-constrained airports such as Singapore Changi, London Heathrow and Los Angeles, to just name a few, by offering a high-capacity aircraft. In February 2019, however, during a period where the fall of the A380 was unfortunately occurring, the program seeing its closure, an announcement by Qantas cemented a further nail in the coffin for the Super Jumbo. The Australian flag carrier confirming following lengthy discussions with Airbus that it had decided not to move ahead with a deal for 8 additional A380 jets, which were ordered in the 2000s. While the confirmation arrived in 2019, it was merely a formality, as the consensus had been for some time that the airline was never planning to take the aircraft on into its operations, and Qantas shared that very same sentiment, saying that with a global trend confirming greater skepticism surrounding the future of the Super Jumbo, while the aircraft would hold a place in its fleet across the long term, the order for a further 8 units had really not been broadly considered part of their fleet or network plans for quite a long period. The order cancellation follows Qantas's original purchase of 20 of the A380s in the early 2000s, but in the end it would only take 12 units and choose to stick to this figure, deeming it to be the perfect ideal mix. Less than a week later, following Qantas's decision, which, well, it may have called the writing on the wall for the Super Jumbo, confirmation arrived from Airbus that the A380 program was to be closed. On February 14, 2019, Valentine's Day, the love was, you could say, certainly not in the air with Airbus, citing a lack of fundamental interest in the program and further cancellations in the backlog, meaning that persisting with the jet did not make financial sense for them. While Qantas would formally choose to move ahead with the cancellation, the arrival of the 2020s would bring troubles unlike anything ever experienced and spell danger for the world's largest passenger plane too. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, and while governments implemented strict restrictions on travel, especially internationally, airlines were severely impacted, but arguably none more so than the Australian flag carrier of Qantas. Australia was notorious for its reaction to the pandemic, locking down states and limiting all international travel for far longer than most countries around the world, which rendered types such as the A380 useless in the fleet. In response to the drop in travel demand, Qantas decided to send more than 75% of its fleet to storage of the long-term kind, including the axing of the A380 fleet, which headed to the Californian desert. The grounding and the general uncertainty about when demand would return presented concerns for the future of the world's largest passenger plane in the airline's operations, as many other global airlines removed the aircraft from their fleets as part of streamlining initiatives. However, Qantas joined a very small collective of airlines such as Emirates and British Airways that backed the Super Jumbo and assured that the type would return in some capacity when demand eventually came back as well. Given Qantas's geographical positioning and the requirement to fly, like I said at the beginning of this video, into some of the world's busiest airports, the A380 has really been seen from the beginning as an adequate plane for its business model, and therefore there was a strong desire to bring it back only when the pandemic eased. After many years, Qantas would begin the return of the A380 to Australia, like I said, only when demand was coming back, and could therefore see the return of such a plane. It would then re-enter service. In what has been a necessary move, airline executives have not held back and called it one of the most challenging experiences yet, bringing back to life a plane of this sheer scale from another country, with mass resources dedicated to the job. You also have to remember that these planes were grounded for years. While the A380 has returned to service and the airline's overall reliance on the program is certainly not what it was intended to be following the cancellation of orders, the phasing out of the plane is still something that is planned, as it would have to be. Revealed in recent years, Qantas purchased the A350-1000 with the plan for this high-capacity model to play a role in the retirement of the A380. These 350s are not importantly the part of the batch that will be delivered and configured for Project Sunrise flights, but are rather a different batch that's considered a like-for-like replacement for the world's largest passenger plane. Even with this move, Qantas will be among some of the last airlines to fly the world's largest passenger plane, as many begin planning for life without the aircraft, as you can expect Qantas to begin saying goodbye to the A380s in the early to mid stages of the 2030s. And while it has definitely served a purpose for many airlines' fleets and worked well for the likes of British Airways, Singapore Airlines and Emirates, which have all operated a hub and spoke model, the type is now wildly out of favour. And I'd love to hear your take down below in the comments on the cancelled Airbus A380 order that we saw take place for Qantas. Do you believe in hindsight these aircraft would have been useful? Very much keen to hear your take down below in the comments. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. It means a lot. Take care, be safe, and I'll see you in a couple of days. If you are new to the channel, like I said, feel free to also hit that subscribe button. It would mean a lot as I try and push for 100,000 on here.
And we'll fly.